Hello, welcome to Okanagan Conservation District's OK Nature Camp. My name is Kim Kogler, and today I'm going to be working with you to build your very own water filter. Now, today's activity is a little bit more in depth than some of the other activities, so you'll be needing quite a few items and possibly some help from an adult. Now, I brought back the pause symbol. I made it a little bit different just because I wanted to switch it up a little. So when you see this pause symbol, it means you'll either need to go and collect an item, or that you'll need to start doing the activity, or that I have a question. So here's an opportunity to practice. Since we're learning about water filters today, I have a question for you all, and the question is, why is it important that we filter water? Here's the pause symbol. So go ahead and hit pause button, and I will wait and see you after. Welcome back. There are quite a few reasons why we'd want to filter water. For humans specifically, we can get really sick if we drink dirty water. So it's important that we get all of that dirt, all of that pollution out of our water before we drink it. However, it's not just us who need clean water. All of the animals and things in the river also need clean water. So sometimes our rivers can look a little brown because they have a lot of sediment in it. And sediment is another word, it's a fancy word for dirt. And if there's a lot of dirt in our rivers, if there's a lot of sediment in our rivers, it can harm the animals in the water. What we call rivers that look really brown, we call them turbid. So turbid rivers have less oxygen than clear water, so animals can't live as well. It's harder for animals to hide from predators, so they might die quicker. And also, turbid water is actually hotter than clear water because all those tiny little particles absorb heat and they make the water too warm. So, like humans, nature has also created its own method of filtering these rivers so that way all the animals can live healthy. Tree roots, rocks, gravel, large logs all help filter the water. All of these things help filter the water. And today what we're going to do is we're going to practice using some of those items that I just mentioned, but also we're going to create our own items that are just from around the house. So for this activity, you'll need a few items, and I have them nearby. You'll need a bottle. I've got part of a milk jug. I've got a Propel water bottle. This was a huge vinegar container. There's a ketchup bottle that I brought. So all these things could be used. And you can get really creative. You'll need scissors, or an X-Acto knife, depending on how sharp the plastic is. This is where you'll need an adult, for instance. You will need a jar that's empty, and that will be for putting, wait for it, your water filter on top of. So we'll pour water in the top here, and it will filter down and hopefully be cleaner in this jar. So then you'll also be needing dirty water, and I made my own. I put dirt and grass and leaves in some water. And finally, you'll need some rubber bands or hair ties if you have. Okay, I'm going to show you now what are some of the filtering items I've got, and then we'll go from there. Okay, this is the big picture of everything that I gathered. Now, you do not need to gather all of these items. I went a little excessive just to show you the variety that you could grab. You do want a variety in pore size. So over here on this side, these are items that have bigger pore spaces between them. It means water will flow through them very fast. Over here are items that water will flow through a little bit slower because the pore space is smaller. So I grabbed newspaper. On top of the newspaper is clay. Here are some of my rubber bands. I grabbed an old sock that has a hole in it. This is the film that goes underneath athletic tape. I've got sand, bird seed, cotton balls, leaves and grass, sticks, thanks to my dog Ollie who chews them up. We've got small gravel and large gravel. Now all of those things will help you build your filter. So here is the pause symbol. Why don't you all go and take some time to collect these items? I will set myself up so that we're all ready to go as soon as you get back. Hopefully by now you've collected all of your items that you need for this activity, and an adult who can help you with the beginning stages with the cutting. So I've got my X-Acto knife here, the really sharp one, and my scissors. Now if you have a thin bottle, like a water bottle, you should be able to cut right through. You just fold it in half and cut. And then if it gets too hard, you just cut around like this. It does not need to be straight, it just needs to be cut. Now what I've learned, couple things, pointers for this. is that smaller water bottles are kind of better because you don't have to use as much stuff. I did this one, and it took a lot of materials to get that. The benefit of the bigger one is if you have a lot of materials, you can see everything a lot better. To start off, you need something to block the hole. So that would be the newspaper, the sock that you have, the coffee filter. Coffee filters actually work the best. A tea bag that you took the tea out of. And you are just going to cover it and put your rubber band or hair tie over. So there, I used an old sock. You might use, for instance, the newspaper. And a heads up about the newspaper, you want to use quite a few pieces of paper. And also, don't poke it once it goes. As soon as it gets wet, it becomes really flimsy to stabbing. But it does still do okay holding things in place as long as it's even pressure. After that, you're going to look at your things that you collected, and you are going to put the smallest things, because they will have the smallest pore size, first. So for me, that is going to be the clay. Fun fact, clay is actually not like tiny, tiny rocks. It's actually kind of like pieces of paper, which is why it's hard for water to filter through it, because it has to do a Z formation. In comparison to sand, which I'm now putting in my sand, sand is actually just like tiny, tiny rocks. So it has a bigger pore size. Okay, so now I've got sand, or clay, sand, and I'm just gonna keep going up from there. I'm gonna put my pebbles in. Pebbles. Now I had also collected birdseed. Birdseed also is a smaller item that might go in there. And then I'm gonna do my grass next. Grass maybe could have gone before the rocks. Some of this is up to your judgment as to what you think is gonna filter water slower or faster. I'm gonna do my big leaves to filter. And then I'm gonna do these bigger rocks. I gotta stick this like that in my cup. So now my cup is holding up my filter. And I'm gonna make another one really quick, so that way we have two to see and compare. And you all work on yours still. Okay, so hopefully by now you've got your filter. So this is my second one. It has the newspaper at the bottom. Like I said, you can also use a coffee filter or a tea thing. It's gotten building up from smallest pore space to largest pore space. This time I switched around my rock and gravel. What would be really fun, actually, interesting comparison, is you can make multiple of these and switch the order. You could do large pore space to small pore space and see if that makes any difference. You could rotate it and do large, small, and you could do an experiment about this too. So that would be a fun extension. Now this is going to take some time because the water is going to have to filter all the way through this, and it's slowly dripping out through the sock or the coffee filter or the newspaper. So this is going to be you pour it and you sit and you wait and you go and do another activity and you come back in like 30 minutes. So I've got my dirty water here. I'm going to first stir it because there's sand that's settled on the bottom. And I'm going to pour it in this one first. And you'll see that the leaves, whoops, and the grass get stuck on top. So that's the immediate filtering of that stuff out. And I'll pour some in here too. I may have poured too much of that first one. And we're going to dump a bunch in there. I had a lot more sand and gravel on the bottom. That's hopefully getting filtered out. Since this one's a little tight, I'm pouring some in there. Whoop. And now we'll just have to sit and wait. You can actually see on mine, there is a water line where the water has not quite passed the sand yet. So it made it all the way through here, but it's taking a long time to filter through the sand, which is good. It means that the sand is really slowing the water down and getting things out. Now, it's going to be really hard to get it completely clear, and it might even be that your first drops are really mucky because that's just what filtered through really fast. But once it kind of gets into its groove, then it'll be a lot cleaner. So I'm going to sit these down. There's a pause button somewhere around in this general area. Pause the video and go ahead and clean up, put your things to the side. And as you're cleaning up, you can stop back and look to see if the drops are clear or dirty. Okay, here are my 3 filters, and I'd be really curious to see who has done coffee filters, what theirs look like. Now, it's interesting because we got different speeds at which the water is filtering. The one on the right is filtering fairly fast, but it's not as clean. The one on the left is second, and that is the newspaper, and then the middle is the sock. Now, all of them should be going slow, and all of them probably will not be perfectly clean. Now, you have to remember that we dumped in, at least I did, a whole handful of dirt and grass and sticks. And so as far as clean water goes, this is significantly cleaner than what I threw in. So over here, the newspaper did hold up. Yay! And it is filtering slowly but surely. That water looks fairly clean. There's not a lot of sediment in there, but there is some because you can see it's a little bit turbid. And if we look over at this one, there is barely any that's dripped through. And I am curious with this, I picked a fairly thick sock and I didn't cut it smaller. And I'm wondering if the water is traveling up the sock and going up rather than dripping down. So that's a little bit of a flaw in that design. And now over here, this water's filtering very fast, which is great to see for the experiment. It's dripping constantly. But it is a little bit dirtier, so the faster filter means that it's not getting as much stuff. Now we can see though through here, there is water all the way through, and there is a time period where you could see things getting stuck. You can see that right there. There's some sediment that got stuck in the bird seed and it was filtered out. So you can see only the smallest of small particles made it through our filter. Okay, I wanted to get one last video in. This has been about an hour and a half since I last videoed, and you can see the differences. I did have to bring it inside because it got dark and cold, but here it is, same order. So the far right is the one that has that material that goes underneath athletic tape so it doesn't stick on your skin, and it has filtered through quite a bit of water. You can actually see quite a bit of that sediment and dirt, and a piece of grass actually was filtered out of the material, and it's left with this, and it's still, you can see, still a little bit turbid, so it didn't filter out all those small particles, and that's okay. What I started with was significantly more turbid, so the grass and the rocks are doing their job. This one is so slow because of the sock, and the sock is actually pretty darn wet, so in the future I don't think I'd use a sock. I think I would use the newspaper or the coffee filter or a tea bag instead, because the fabric just absorbed all the water. And finally, we've got this one, which is done a little bit differently. It's a newspaper, and it has filtered slower, but it's still going strong. And it filtered out quite a bit of the material as well. So I'd say these were pretty good options, although I would make some changes next time. If you're willing, I would love to see a few pictures of your water filter or filters if you did a compare and contrast. We've all had to get a little creative as we do these activities at home. I'd be curious to see what you found around your house to build your water filter and what did and didn't work for you as you were building. As you can see on mine, there's some things that didn't work for me that I tested, and there's some stuff that worked pretty well. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you had a really good time and that you learned a little bit about how nature filters out its water in our rivers and streams. It uses twigs and leaves and dirt and rocks to get all of that sediment out, and that way our rivers are less turbid, that they're a lot cleaner. If you head to our Okanagan Conservation District's YouTube channel, you'll find more Okanagan Nature Camp videos that you can do. There's all activities that are hands-on, outdoor, and they should be fairly easy for you to do on your own or with a little bit of adult supervision. Until the next time, I'll see you around. Bye!